Greetings everyone. So I don't know how many of you watch many of Candace Owens' videos, if any, but she did just recently put one out where quite a number of interesting things came out. Now she has a massive audience. Generally her videos tend to get 1 million views easily or 1.2 million. This video that she just put out yesterday at the time of me recording this had about 4.7 million and it may still be rising. So a huge amount of views, and it's most likely, in fact it's almost certainly, because she was saying a lot about Charlie Kirk, who was a very dear friend of hers, a very close friend. Now some people actually thought that perhaps they went their separate ways, Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk. They worked together for a long time, but then Charlie went one way and Candace went the other, and particularly when Candace Owens was criticizing the actions of Israel quite a lot, while Charlie Kirk was praising Israel and was very pro-Israel. Many people thought perhaps they had stopped being friends, but this wasn't the case at all. They were very much still in touch with each other and they were still very close friends. And in this video that she just put out, she was saying all kinds of very intriguing, interesting things, if they're true, revealing a lot of disturbing things that may well have been going on behind the scenes in Charlie Kirk's life. But one thing she also did mention was that not only did he seem to be possibly changing his mind on Israel, which is related to some of the behind the scenes things that were going on, and that supposedly he was being quite pressured on this issue, and he was being told to invite certain people to his events and to absolutely not invite others, to platform certain people and not platform others. While this was one of the things that he seemed to be having a rethink about, another area where a lot of rethinking was going on was in the area of his faith. Now, as you'll know, Charlie Kirk was a very devout Christian. He often talked about God. He often talked about the importance of the family. But nevertheless, he was a Protestant Christian. Now, there are plenty of wonderful Protestant Christians around. I very much like a lot of Christians who are Protestants. Protestant Christian public figures are very decent people as well, promoting very good things. But when I think of Protestantism, I often think of it as this kind of arrow that is pointed in more or less the right direction. But if you could just convince them to go from Protestantism to Catholicism, that arrow would go from being pointed in more or less the right direction to being pointed in exactly the right direction. That's how I see this. And he was a Protestant Christian. So while he of course talked about a very many wonderful things, he did have a little bit of criticisms of the Catholic Church. That was one of the few areas where I disagreed with him. I think the Israel issue a little bit as well, I disagreed with him on, particularly with some of the stuff going on now. I think it's very difficult to stand on Israel's side with some of the stuff they're doing. But it seems actually that while he had in the past had some criticisms about the Catholic Church, maybe recently, and maybe very recently, he was starting to get other ideas. He was starting to look at Catholicism and think, maybe there's something to this. Candace Owens in the following clip I'm about to show you pretty much says that it looked like, even though she doesn't say it directly, he may have possibly been thinking of converting to the Catholic faith.
Charlie was definitely on the brink of changing some of his perspectives. And I can tell you factually, Charlie was praying the Rosary. Charlie was going to Mass. One of my last conversations with Charlie was me joking with him saying, just make the last step, okay? You are, I said specifically, you're too smart to be a Protestant. Just take the last step, Charlie. And he says, ha ha. He was speaking about Mary. And typically when those steps start taking place, you stop referring to yourself, as I did, as a Judeo-Christian.
So I don't know about you, but Protestants tend not to really talk about Mary. And according to Candace Owens, he was starting to talk about Mary. Protestants most certainly, even if they might mention Mary sometimes, do not pray the Rosary. And according to Candace Owens, Charlie Kirk was praying the Rosary. I don't think you start thinking about Mary and praying the Rosary if you're not at least considering Catholicism and considering converting into the Catholic Church. So that's a very interesting thing that I had no idea about, that Charlie Kirk may well have been thinking of going over to the Catholic faith. And I think if he was starting to develop some kind of a relationship with our Blessed Mother, then I think on the day he died, she would have been there for him. I think he would have died right into her arms. It's a very beautiful thing to learn, that if indeed it's true, if what Candace Owens is saying is true, and I don't really have any reason to doubt it at the moment, Charlie Kirk may well have been considering coming into the Catholic Church. So I don't know if that's something you knew. I certainly didn't until I saw Candace Owens say that in a video. If you have any thoughts about that, of course, please do let me know in the comments. I certainly think it's a very interesting piece of information. In other news, something I want to just briefly mention, because it's quite historic, is the fact that Catherine, the Duchess of Kent, who has just died, is going to be having her funeral, or maybe she's already actually had her funeral, to be honest, because it's taking place today as I record this, at Westminster Cathedral. Now, the reason this is historic is because since the Reformation, no royal in the UK has ever had a Catholic funeral. It's kind of unthinkable. Why would they? The monarch is the head of the Church of England. So how could any royal have a Catholic funeral when they die? And yet this is what has happened. I think it's already happened today. The Duchess of Kent has had a Catholic funeral at Westminster Cathedral. So if you have any thoughts about that, do let me know in the comments as well. Thank you very much, folks, for watching this video. Have yourselves a blessed day.